Mission 5 is actually composed of 2 missions, and takes place a few days after the city of Poseidonis has been constructed. The player receives a message from Civilian Affairs Coordinator Tanaka requesting a meeting. She believes that it would be a good idea for the player to give a public speech in Rivet City to improve the public image of the Terran Starship Command amongst the population.
We remain by their side. A simple public appearance should suffice.
The player accepts. When leaving his office, the player is ambushed by Archangel, head of the Seraphim Intelligence Division, who, with no further explanation, gives him a small emblem to take with him.
Have this. Just a little lucky charm. It'll give you luck during your speech.
Greetings, Commander. Where do you want to go today?
The player then leaves for Rivet City.
Rivet City it is. I'll establish the link.
As we can see, the settlement is now heavily guarded under the protection of the TSC. The speech location is at the hangar where the market usually is. Once there, if he so wishes, the player can mix with the populace and enjoy the celebration. He will be able to eavesdrop conversations, listen to TSC PR talks, acquire TSC merchandising,
Hello, citizen. We are here to provide you with a taste of TSC flavor. Would you like some noodles? An officer hat? A mug, perhaps? Or Commander!
and perhaps more importantly, talk with Ruiz,
Shot it dead just when I was about to slash the commander in two, and hello there, Commander.
Hawk,
Commander, just watching over the crowd. You never know when someone will try something stupid.
and Kurosawa,
He's not one for public appearance.
brothers in arms that served with him on a previous mission. All of this is completely optional.
You want me to announce you now?
Once the player is ready, he only needs to talk to Lieutenant Bell to commence the speech. The lieutenant will make a small introductory speech to warm up the audience, and then present the player.
But enough talk. I now leave you with the person you've all been waiting for. Ladies and gentlemen, the person who made all this possible. The supreme leader of the Terran Starship Command.
The time has come for the player to commence the speech. However, not everything goes as planned. The Western Brotherhood of Steel has tried to assassinate the player, but the emblem Archangel gave him earlier emits a protective force field, saving his life. The assassination has failed, but it's been a massacre. Hawk is dead. Kurosawa is in a coma. And Ruiz dies right in front of the player.
Remember? Just laugh it off.
This marks the beginning of the third of the 4 acts of this story. After a funeral ceremony, the player tells Commodore Harking to summon the Consul, and a long meeting takes place, where a course of action against the Brotherhood of Steel has to be decided.
Yes, it's time to react.
A heated discussion takes place during this session, and some tensions arise.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is no secret. We are officially at war with the Western Brotherhood of Steel.
It is agreed that they need power armor to stand a chance against the Brotherhood underground.
We're only to find a huge supply of power armor. Just like that.
Maybe we should design our own.
Archangel says he might be able to help with that. But until that time comes, the Council must decide whether to use the TSC air superiority to nullify the enemy air force and convoys, or to entrench themselves, use diplomacy, and try to clarify whether the whole Brotherhood was responsible for this or not.
For a defensive position.
The Council votes. It is a tie, so the player, as a Supreme Commander, ends up holding the decisive vote. He has to choose between the two options, which will bring consequences on future missions.
We all have a lot to do. If there are no further matters, this session is over.
After the Council session, the player meets with Archangel, and he is told where they can find the armors they are looking for.
Moscow, you're going to strike a deal with the reborn coalition of Soviet nations, a beacon of order in a chaotic world.
This will be a diplomatic mission in the former Soviet Union territory, so the player heads to the main hangars, meets with his pilot, and boards his Valkyrie along his two personal protectors, the Black Guard.
Hello, Commander.
When everything is ready, the shuttle leaves for Moscow.
Are you ready to depart, Commander? Of course, Commander. We are leaving the Olympus.
This completes the first part of the mission. During the flight, the player can check intelligence files on the country he's going to visit and its leader, General Artyom Orlov. Eventually, the ship reaches its destination, the roof of the presidential palace of the reborn coalition of Soviet nations.
Dobry day, Commander. That's your passage for good afternoon here. I'm Seth Elgor. I hope you had a good trip. A General Orlov is waiting for you at his office. I'll take you there. Your guard can't get in, I'm afraid. If you're better off guarding the Valkyrie, I'll fill you in on the details as we move. Please, head inside. This is the presidential
Eligar
palace.
is a Seraph agent, and he has been dealing in secret with the RCSN for a while. He quickly explains the situation to the player and takes him to General Orlov's office. Then, the meeting takes place.
The Terran Starship Command, the Saviors of Earth, the last hope of mankind. With your powerful weaponry, you will bring everlasting peace. With your superior technology, you will resurrect civilization. Am I right, Commander?
The meeting with Orlov is a complex conversation.
A feeling that I share.
Several subjects turn up, like the existence of a military insurrection by a faction called the Bolsheviks,
They want the communist ideals to be above everything else.
and the fact that the armor requires a huge amount of energy to work.
One suit consumes as much energy in a day as this entire compound consumes in a week.
The player has to be careful when dealing with the general, and keep in mind all that he's been told about him, so as not to mess up with the negotiations. Every spoken line counts, and he can even earn some bonus points with a few special items, if he has them.
Too. I've only seen 2 bottles in my entire life, and they were both so old that they were undrinkable. We shall see.
Depending on the player's skill, several outcomes can come out of this. The deal can go awfully wrong, or the player
Yes.
might earn the respect of the
I will
general
prepare
and reach a mutually
demonstration of the
beneficial
arms for you
agreement.
tomorrow morning, and we will seal the deal.
Whatever the outcome is, the player will need to spend the night in the palace before attending a demonstration of a powered-up armor. During this time, the player is given a comfortable room to stay in and free access to the whole palace. The palace is quite large and offers plenty of opportunities for exploration. To proceed with the mission, the player will have to get some rest, as Eligor suggested. This will trigger the next stage of the quest.
На колени! Живо! Молись.
Hello, Commander. Slept well? Looks like the Bolsheviks have finally decided to make a move. They have
The
infiltrated
Bolsheviks have
Valls.
taken over the palace, so the player and Eligor fight their way back to the roof, to regroup with the Black Guard, who still resist near the shadows. One of them tells the player that the pilot is at the bar, and after deciding how to deal with his wounded companion, they go and look for him first.
Looks like we need
Since
to find a
rescuing
pilot.
Orlov seems to be out of the question at the moment.
There's a lot of rebels entrenched at this office, and only one entrance. The moment the door handle moves, they'll release hell on the door. There's not much we can do about him now. We'd better focus on the other options and secure an escape route while we think of something.
The group heads downstairs and fights the Bolsheviks. On their way, they might learn some more details about the invasion if they visit certain places, like the security office or the main entrance, locked with a complex bomb mechanism. Once more, all this optional information will be of use later. Finally, they reach the bar. There is no trace of the pilot, but they find a strange man hiding behind the counter.
Scientologist. Yes, I researcher. I say no different.
He says that the guards took the pilot to Orlov's
Explain
office to
the
interrogate him, and that he can unlock access to the basement warehouse, where the power armor is being charged for the demonstration.
He's a blasted scientist. You can discuss semantics when this is over. But with the armor...
The plan is now to use the power armor to assault Orlov's office and hopefully rescue both the pilot and the general. The group then proceeds to the basement, clears the area and discovers a hole in the wall, the Bolshevik entrance point. Should the player choose to explore it, he will witness strange events and gather even more useful information from a notebook, the final piece of the puzzle. In any case, the path to the armors is now clear. The player can finally assault Orlov's office and fight the remaining Bolsheviks and their leader. Both the pilot and the general are rescued, and the final conversation takes place. If the player has collected the optional information during the mission, he will be able to guess what exactly happened in the palace and impress Orlov, gaining extra bonus options for the plot.
If I had known this will come from a few amendments, I would never have made them.
This will have its consequences in the future. In any case, Orlov will now bid farewell to the player, once again, with different tones and implications, depending on the amount of respect gained.
Well, Commander, it's been a real pleasure working at your side. I hope you have a good flight back to the Olympics.
The player says goodbye to Eligor, boards his Valkyrie, And the mission ends. Or does it now? The player suddenly finds himself in control of a different character. A paladin from the Brotherhood chapter responsible for the assassination attempt. During a short walk around the base, he'll be able to hear a few conversations showing the first consequences of his decision in the council meeting.
Those supplies.
The vertebrate convoy should have arrived yesterday.
It couldn't get any worse.
Then wait until
This change of perspective should make the player realize that not everything is as clear as it might seem.
With my air support.
I'm afraid it's with Terran's Starship Command.
Just what we needed. None of this would have happened if you kept a closer eye on your commandos.
After this, the player gains control of his character at the main hangars, and this mission is finally over.